Now it's on. Okay. All right. Gayle, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got your start in casting and what drew you to that aspect of the business?
Sure. I moved to New York about 25 years ago, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was interested in working in the film business, and I had a friend who was a film editor. And I said, I want to do what you do. And he said, no, you don't want to do what I do. He's like, I sit in front of a computer all day long for 12 hours in a dark room. It's not fun. He said, you should look at casting. And I said, well, what's casting? And he said, he told me what it was. And he said, there are a lot of women in casting. And that intrigued me. Because I thought going into a profession where there were a lot of women would be a good thing, right? And I met a casting director, and she was lovely, and she helped me get an internship. And then after the internship, I got a job as someone's assistant, and then I just kept working in the business and kind of going from job to job. And I finally just kind of went out on my own. And the first job I got was working on Law & Order Criminal Intent, which was the third Law & Order. So that was like my first job as a casting director. Yeah.
On your own?
On my own. And New York at the time didn't really have that much film production. It had about a handful of TV series. It had all the Law & Orders. It still had people would come and shoot movies in New York, and there was a lot of commercials in New York, but there wasn't the television industry. And I realized I loved working on a television series because it was a long-term commitment, so I knew where I was going to be working for 9 months sometimes. And when you work on a film, it's just 10 weeks and then you're done. So I liked the idea of having a long-term job. And I also got to meet so many actors working on television because it's so constant that you're having to cast an episode every 8 days. You get a new script and you're having to cast 30 to 40 people every 8 days. So I got to know a lot of actors in New York City. And I think that's one of the most important things for a casting director is just to have the knowledge of who the actors are.
And where do you meet the actors? Do you go to theater, film? Do you rely on agencies to bring your attention to actors?
I do all of that. The number one thing for me is theater. I live in New York City. It has the best theater in the world, next to London, I guess. And I'll go and see 2 to 3 plays a week.
Wow.
I'll go and see an off-Broadway show, an off-Broadway show. I'll go and see a sketch comedy show, an improv show, a stand-up comedy show, and I'll go and see Broadway too. That's where I think I get 75% of the actors that I bring in to audition for me. The other percentage is from agents and managers submitting their clients to me. And I'll just say that for theater, when I go to see the theater, that doesn't mean the actors are represented by anyone. There's a lot of actors who don't have representation who are working in the theater, and I will call them into audition. I don't care if they have an agent or a manager or not. I don't care if they're in the union or not. If I think they're good, if I think they're right for something and I've seen their work, I'll bring them in.
And what inspires you when you see a great theater performance? What moves you to bring someone in when you've seen their work and you respond to it?
Well, theater is so different from television and film. You can be in a theater with thousands of people and you can be very far away from the stage. And if an actor is able to reach out and move me in some way by their performance on this little stage and I'm way in the balcony or whatever, I think that's a good actor.
I agree. For me, the most important thing, or the thing that I respond to the most, is an emotional connection. If I've been moved in some way.
And it's the hardest thing to do. You know, I mean, television and film, it's a very small medium, right? It's like this for television and a little bigger for films, but we're watching everything on this anyway. So it's a visual medium. So the camera can be right in your face. The editor can create an emotion, but
The music can create an emotion.
Music can
the
create an
soundtrack.
emotion, but when you're on a stage and everything is fake about it, we know it's fake. We're in a theater watching something on a stage. For someone to be able to transform what they're doing on that stage, to me, is a great actor. And then if that actor is able to go from that medium to television and film, well, you know, then they've hit the jackpot. Not everyone's able to do both.
Right,
No.
right. In my mind, I feel that casting is an art that is incredibly undervalued in the industry, and there's been a lot of talk about why casting directors do not have their own category in the motion picture Academy, and there's an amazing documentary that you guys should watch called Casting By. If you've never seen that, it will enlighten you about the art form of casting that is so undervalued, and I wonder if you could talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, that was a major coup for everyone, all the casting directors across the country. We in the last 10 years. We were never a part of the film television industry that were unionized. Almost everyone in the business has a union. The DGA, directors, producers, actors, scene designers, costumers, everyone has a union to represent them, and casting directors did not. So 10 years ago, the Teamsters in New York, Local 817, said, "We'll take you. We will take you. You can be a part of our union so that you can get health care and you can get, you know, health and pension." And it was at that time they were also developing the documentary called Casting By. So those two things came together at the right time, and we were able to get a lot of recognition from the industry because of the documentary, and at the same time become unionized and have a union that gives us health and pension.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the folklore in the industry, but without the vision and inspiration of casting directors, you would have no Dustin Hoffman in The Graduate. You would have Robert Redford. You would have no John Voight in Midnight Cowboy. And you would have no Ray Romano in The Big Sick, which I thought was a particularly inspired idea for him to play a dad who was not funny. And he's known for funny, and I was wondering if you could let us know how that came about.
Sure. The movie, The Big Sick, was such a little movie. You know, no one thought it would do as well as it did. We had a great producer in Judd Apatow was our producer, and Barry Mendel. But what they did when we started the project, we auditioned people. We had Kumail, because it was his story. He was going to play himself. And we had to find his girlfriend. And we auditioned a lot of actors. So all the Zoe Kazan, who got the part, auditioned for the part, but a lot of young actresses auditioned for that part. And then we were like, okay, now who are the parents going to be? And Kumail and his wife Emily were very involved because it was their story. It was Emily's parents that we were trying to cast. And I just remember an agent, Ray Romano was on a TV series called Vinyl that was not doing well on HBO, and it was not getting renewed for a second season, or maybe it had gotten canceled. So Ray Romano kind of all of a sudden became available, and his agent right away pitched him, said, "What about Ray Romano?" And I thought, wow, that's a great idea, because even though it's not a funny part, you know that Ray would be able to bring something else to the part that maybe would be slightly funny, and he does, I think. But he has so much empathy as a character. And I think that father was the more empathetic of the couple. The mother was a little bit, she was the strong, sort of like tougher, and the father was a little bit of the pushover. So I just presented, say, what about Ray Romano? And everyone on the email exchange, the producer, the directors, everyone's like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. So we made an offer to Ray Romano.
That's a great story.
And we got him because he wasn't doing vinyl.
That's so interesting, the way a cast comes together, and you never really know, right, until the last bit of it, how it's all going to gel.
Yeah, you have no idea. And people think, oh, this cast, you got the perfect cast, but it's so rare that the person that you want when you start the movie that you're going to get. I did this other film called Certain Women with this casting director, Kelly Reichardt, who's done a lot of great indie films. And in Certain Women, none of those women were who we wanted for the part when the film started. And everyone thinks that was such an amazing cast of women, but none of those women were who we initially made the offer to.
It's interesting how you start with a list, is that correct?
Well, when you're casting, not for television so much, but for films, because of financial reasons, a lot of times you do need to have a star attached, depending on if you have a producer or a studio behind you. If you don't, it is very helpful to find the biggest name that you can possibly find for your film to help to sell it and all that other stuff if you don't have a distributor. So those parts usually will come from, you make a list, you discuss it with the director and the producer, and then you decide who you want, who's your number one person, and then you just kind of go from there. You very rarely get your first choice. Ray Romano was our first choice. We were lucky. Holly Hunter was our first choice, but it's kind of rare.
And what is your process like, your vision? When you're reading a script for the first time, do you immediately see actors for certain roles?
Yeah, I think definitely people pop into your head when you read it, and that sort of generates your list. Like, you start from that little one grain of a couple of actors. You go, oh, I could see Michael Shannon play this part, or I could see, Holly Hunter, or I could see Michelle Williams, or whatever. Yeah, you start from that germ, but then you just try to expand it. You never want to just have 3 names on a list, because if you can't get those 3 names, then you don't have a list. So you usually have to I like to throw the net very wide, and I like to put big name people, mid-size, whatever, and then even unknowns.
Do you have an example of an actor that you saw for a role that nobody else could see, that you championed for something?
Oh, that's a good one. I wish you would have thought about that one before. I'm trying to think. Oh, I do have a good example. This is a show that a lot of people might not have seen. It's a show called Horace and Pete. I don't know, has anyone seen Horace and Pete? Okay. So Horace and Pete is a web series that Louis C.K. wrote and directed, and he put on his website. So that was the only way you could view it.
Wow.
I think Hulu might have bought it, so now you could maybe see it on Hulu. We had this one role. There was an episode where it was just Louis and this one other actor, a woman, and she is a character that is introduced for the first time. It's like episode 4 or 5, so it's like kind of in the middle of the series, and we don't really know who she is. She has this huge monologue, like that's a couple of pages long, and Louis comes in at the end of it and they have an exchange, and then that's the episode. So the whole episode is just these 2 people, Louis and this woman. And as soon as I read it, I thought Laurie Metcalf, I thought she would be perfect for this part. I was just like, Laurie Metcalf, she's got to do it. And I sent him a list of some names, but then I sort of sent a side note and said, Laurie Metcalf would be so great. And he's like, I don't know. And so I backed off. You got to back off, because it's his vision. So, I was like, oh, okay. So I waited a couple of days, and then I sent this email to him just sort of talking about Laurie Metcalf and why I just felt that really she would be the perfect person for this. And I brought in her theater background. You know, she's known first as a Chicago Steppenwolf theater actress, and then she went on. And I said, and finally, with the help of a couple of other people, maybe, who also put that in his ear, he agreed. And she was nominated for an Emmy for that role. So
what a great
I felt
story.
like I went to bat for Laurie Metcalf.
Yeah, awesome. And it takes a special kind of an actor, maybe a theater-trained actress, to be able to do 3 or 4 pages in one go.
Yeah.
It's not an
And
easy
she did
thing
it,
to do.
I think they just did it twice. I mean, it was shot like a sitcom, so it was shot with multiple cameras on a stage. But she did one whole take, and then I think he gave her an adjustment, and she did a second take, and that was it. They had it.
Wow.
Done.
That's incredible. Let's see, should we take some questions from, oh no, I have a question for you. As an actress, how do you feel about the new movement that's going on in self-taping? This is when actors put themselves on tape for roles. They're being asked by the casting community to do this. Sometimes it's very beneficial. For instance, last week I auditioned for something that was in Los Angeles and I was here, so I put myself on tape, sent the tape to the casting director, but frequently actors are being asked to do that when they're in town where the casting director is. What do you see as the benefits or drawbacks of that new practice?
Well, I think it's been around for a little while.
Has.
Yeah,
It has.
I mean, it started that if you were, say, in New York, and or you were in Los Angeles and the show was shooting in New York, or vice versa, and you didn't want to fly yourself out to maybe not even get seen.
Right.
Or if you knew that someone called you and wanted you to come in to audition, but you weren't able, you were out of town or just weren't able to come back in, you would put yourself on tape. And then it used to be a VHS tape that you physically got. So now it's so much easier because somebody just sends you a link on your computer and then you can send it to the director or whatever. I think it's great. I've gotten to know so many actors I didn't know who weren't in New York City, not just in Los Angeles, if they were in Chicago or New Orleans or Michigan or Toronto
Or Memphis.
or wherever they were, and I was getting this tape for them. And if I thought that they were really good, I would send it along to the director. It's tricky. The one reason it's a little bit tricky is because you are taking a chance because you haven't physically met this person. And that makes me a little bit nervous sometimes. So a lot of times what actors may do is they may also send along a reel of their other work, so I know that they're legit, or that they've had some training, or that because I'm responsible for presenting that person
To the director.
Yeah, I was talking to my friend Tim and Laurie about it, and Tim kind of asked me the same question, and I said, it's true. You don't want to send someone to the director that's insane or crazy,
Or not prepared.
or not professional or whatever. And if you don't meet someone you get a feeling for a person. It's like it's on you. It's on me.
Yeah.
It's on me who I send to the director. They'll say, why the hell did you send me this crazy person? So, and when you're working on TV, film, whatever, time is money. Every single moment is, the clock is ticking and the money's being spent. So you don't want to have an actor on set that is not going to do their job.
And that brings me to another question about what do you think about actors auditioning? Do you have a position? Should they know their lines? How off book?
Yeah, that's a good question, especially if you're, an actor being prepared, I can't even stress how important that is. my day is composed of spending hours and hours of auditioning actors, and to have an actor come in who's prepared, knows the lines, has read the script, has made choices for the role, even if they don't get the part, I am going to bring them back. An actor that comes into a room and the first thing out of their mouth is an excuse why they couldn't really learn the lines, or they didn't have time, or they just flew in from somewhere, or their dog was sick, or whatever. I understand all that stuff might have happened, but I think you need to not bring that into the room.
Absolutely.
Because I don't know if I'll bring them back into the room. Again, it's my reputation. I've got to, and I watch actors grow and develop. I've seen actors I know Owen Campbell is in a movie here at the festival. What's the name of it? Shot in the Dark, anyway, I knew him as like an 11-year-old in New York City, So I see these actors start very young and grow and become, like full-fledged actors with great careers, and they go on, and I'm so proud of them. But so, if they can't show it to me in the room, I don't know how they're going to be able to show it to someone else on a set. So being prepared, I think, without any excuses, just go in and do the work and do the best you can, and you may, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to get the job, but that one job is going to get you another job, and it's going to get you another job, and it's going to get you back in my room. That's what you want. You want to be able to be called back in to that casting office.
And that happens by giving a good account of yourself, having a point of view, bringing yourself in the room, not an idea of what the actor thinks you might want. Mm-hmm. Be inspired by the script, make a choice, do your work, and go home.
That's right, and feel good about it. Actors are so bad at beating themselves up, of walking out of a room and just going, it was terrible, I sucked, I can't believe it. That's not going to benefit you. Mm-hmm. It's not going to benefit anyone. Just tell yourself, I did the best I could, and move on to the next one.
And let's see, should we see if we have questions?
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to talk about?
I'm open to.
Gia, did you have a question? And please, can you come up to the mic?
Hi, I'm Gia. I'm really
Hi.
short. Oh, no, there we go. When an actor and an actress comes in to you to audition for anything, and let's say they went to college or didn't go to college, is that a big determination if they're getting cast or not? Or it's like, you're talented, you can do it, I'm casting you?
Oh God, no. I think if you can go to college, it's a good idea. I don't think it's a requirement to be a good actor. I think actors, this is just my opinion too. Everything I say, just remember, it's just my opinion. Don't quote me on it. Life experience is what makes a good actor, I think. I'm not saying that to any parents out here who are like, God damn, I'm trying to get my kid to college. I'm not saying that at all. Of course, if you can go to college, if you can afford to go to college, if you want to go to college, I think it's a great thing. I loved going to college, and I learned, and that's where I made my friends, that's where I learned about life. But you can learn about life in different ways. You could take an acting class, you know what I mean? You could take an improv class. You could do a lot of different things, but acting is a skill. It is a profession. You do have to learn certain things in order to be really good. So wherever you can find it that helps you as an individual person, do it. If it doesn't feel right, then maybe find something else. But I don't look at someone's resume and go, oh, they didn't go to college. That's just not in my head. I do look at their resume and see if they have had training. I do look and see what their special skills are, because I find those fascinating. I do love to know if someone speaks another language, or those things are important. And if they have training, it does tell me something that they've had, that they've had discipline and they've gone through a process and learned something, hopefully. So that adds to it, but it's not like I won't throw their resume in the trash if they didn't go to college. No.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I just want to say one thing. Gia studies in Memphis with a local acting coach by the name of Corey Parker, who is from New York and has been in such movies and plays as Biloxi Blues on Broadway. He's a member of the Actors Studio, and so Gia's had some really excellent local training, and I encourage anyone who's looking for that here in Memphis to look Corey up. So other questions? Yes, sir?
Hi.
Don Myers, I'm a local actor here.
Wait, say again?
Don Myers, I'm a local actor here, and I was just
Don.
wondering, a lot of us actors and actresses are with representation here, and you talked about this, and you might have covered it in part, but you know, a lot of us get our auditions sent to you or sent to other casting directors, so we're not in front of you, so you're not looking at us, you know, auditioning person to person. So is that a disadvantage? In terms
I'm
of
not sure I heard it.
It's a little difficult to hear you. Maybe raise up the mic and,
Oh,
I'm
okay.
so sorry. Say it again.
No, I'm just saying that a lot of us are represented here with agencies or an agency.
Are represented here?
Right.
Correct.
Right. And
Okay.
I'm wondering, is that a disadvantage when they send our tapes into you, or, you know, do you look more at people who are, you know, in front of you?
Oh, I see what you mean. Like local? Like
Yeah.
they have to be from New York?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's a little bit of a concern only because if what I'm working on, they won't fly people in for
Yeah.
a certain part, then I just have to ask the question of your agent,
Okay.
would this person be willing to be a local hire?
That's kind of what I'm getting
And
at.
and
yeah.
you know what that means, right?
Right,
A
right.
local hire is like someone who would agree to come to New York, put themselves up.
Right.
They'll get paid for the work as a SAG actor,
Right.
but that the production won't actually fly them and put them up and all that other stuff. If the actor agrees to that,
Mm-hmm.
and I think they're right for the part, I'll show them to the director.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
Okay.
Sometimes when I'm working in television and the part has to work like the next day, I may think twice, thinking just like it's going to be a bit of a hassle. Let me try and find someone in New York that can do this part because it has to work tomorrow. So sometimes that comes up for me.
Right,
So it's just like it just depends on the circumstance.
Right.
Usually it happens more with film because film you have more time.
Yeah.
Like I can have 10 weeks to cast a film and I can spend that time searching for the actor in Memphis and anywhere across the country because I have time. If I'm working on a TV show, I might need an actor the next day and it won't allow me the same amount of time. So that's the biggest difference.
Got it.
You know, and when I consider actors outside of New York.
Right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yes?
I have to lower this.
Yeah.
My question is, you were talking about using theater actors, and I wondered what obstacles theater actors face coming to audition for a film.
Great question.
Yeah, that's a really good question. It seems like it used to be, it's not as common now, but it used to be a little, like, they were just theatrical. I don't know how to explain it. They were big. They
Too
were
big
they
for
were
the
very
camera.
big in the room. But usually it just took a note, like bring it down or let's try this again and just like really pull it back and try and do less, like less. Less is always a good note, no matter what. So that was the biggest thing. But now it feels like because we're so fortunate, actors are so fortunate to have so many mediums now to be able to present their work, streaming and websites and the internet and Netflix. I mean, like really, you have the options. I mean, they're just like tenfold to what they used to be. You know, so now actors have so many more opportunities to be able to play to different mediums like theater or film or television. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
No.
Hey, so I was in a workshop last night, and they were talking about foreign distribution companies want actors that are going to appeal to foreign markets, and the streamers like Netflix want actors from their kind of their own stable that they can kind of increase their brand with. How much thought goes into those kind of competing interests when you're casting?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not the person. I'm not necessarily the person that considers that. That more comes from the producer. But certainly, if I'm working on, let's say I'm working on this film right now that's like a $2 million film, and we'll present the director, the producer with a list of actors. I'll present them with a list of ideas for roles, and then they will then send it to another producer to tell us who means something in the foreign market, and then, you know, would the director would the director consider those people above anyone else? So I don't know what it is, but someone does, and so the producer is the person who has the money, so they're the ones that are most concerned with that. I'm really just trying to be as pure as I can with presenting the director, no matter who that person is, if the best person for the role. You know, and now, unfortunately, also we have to consider, because of our political climate, if an actor's coming from another country, now we have to calculate how much time it would take for that person maybe to get a visa. And we had this issue with The Big Sick, because the actor playing Kumail's father he's a big Bollywood actor, Anupam Kaur. And we almost didn't get him. We almost didn't get his visa approved in time for him to start shooting. And it was really, they were calling me 2 days. He was here, he got here, but then we couldn't actually be filmed until the visa came through. So they were I had to get like a backup actor in case it wasn't going to come through in time. It was really stressful.
That's so stressful for everyone, for the backup actor, for the actor who wanted to do the job.
This was a guy that Kumail wanted. It was his childhood hero, like his favorite Indian actor ever. And he's like, he's got to play my father. So we wanted to do it for Kumail. You know, it's his story, it's his movie. We wanted so badly to get him that actor, and we got it. But it's a concern. Yeah, you have to think about so many different things. Who's valuable, you know, if they can get a visa, you know, all that stuff. Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
Peter Maxwell. I'm an actor, musician. But my question, Gayle, is have you ever had an opportunity to cast a woman where the part was set for a man?
Yeah. I think that's come up. I'm trying to think if it's come up for like, oh, okay, yeah. So I talked about this film, Certain Women, with Kelly Reichardt. I don't know if anyone has seen it, but it's these three kind of like short stories, three stories. And the third story was a woman. It was a story. Kristen Stewart plays this young girl in it, and she's teaching a class, and this person comes into the class, and it was originally written for a guy, and we ended up casting a Native American woman. It wasn't my idea, now that I think back about it, but it was like this really different take on what was initially written and then what it became. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, I try and do it, like it depends on if a director I feel is a person who's open to that, then I will definitely try and present different options.
Yeah.
If I know it's someone who's maybe not going to be so open to that idea, I try not to maybe do it, you know, but it depends on the relationship. You know, like I knew Kelly is a director who's very collaborative. LOUIE is a person who's very collaborative, you know, so it just depends on who you're working with, and if you feel like I can present something that they're going to be open to it. But I won't do it just for the sake of doing it. I'll do it if I feel like there's an actor that has come into the room that I feel like, you know what, even though they're not they're different sex, like why not bring it up and see, what happens.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I mean, and with transgender actors now, too, is such a huge, it's just opened everything up. It's like blew everything out of the water, right? It's so, I think it's great.
Great question. Yeah. Anybody? Yes?
Hi, Rachel Alethea. I had a question. I've heard a lot of casting directors talk about actors needing to know their types and how they probably shouldn't submit for certain things. I know that you were talking about Ray Romano and how, typically he does more comedy than drama, and, you still went after him. I was just hoping that you could talk a little bit more about types as a casting director.
Yeah, I think that's something that, I think it's something that more agents and managers maybe consider themselves with for their client than casting directors think about actors that way. I don't necessarily think of actors as far as types a lot of time, but what gets submitted to me by the agents and managers, they will submit their client based on a certain type they think their client is. So sometimes actors will go, well, what is my type? I want to know what my type is. And it's maybe if your agent feels like you need to have a type, but I don't think casting directors necessarily look at actors the same way. And I feel like that came out of more the agent-actor, a relationship, like agents and managers telling their, do you find that?
I do, and I would say as an actress, are you an actress?
Yes.
Don't let anybody tell you what you are. That's, I think, really important. I think if your agent is saying you can only go on this kind of role, and you feel differently, you have to find a way to make your voice heard and known, and, don't be afraid to speak up. Are you going to go audition for a 13-year-old boy? Probably not. You'll probably be a 20-something. But if you feel like you're being held back by a certain idea of who you are, try to let them know in some way. Do a play or a scene and film it. That's something completely different, or what you want to express. Show them that. Yeah, just bring what you want to bring.
Yeah, I think you've got to be true to yourself.
Sure.
Because that's what you're presenting. You want to present as much of your true self as you can within the character, because that truth is going to come out. And it's like when you watch good actors, they're so good because they're being so real, they're being so truthful, right? So find it for yourself. If you start finding you get typecast, be as good as you can in that part, because that's what's going to allow you to get work, and work is going to allow you to get more work. And that more work will be where you'll be able to stretch yourself as an actor and try and you'll have more leverage. If you're someone who, you don't have anything on your resume, you don't have any credits, then how are you going to prove to someone what you can do? Right. So sometimes it does take a little finagling of like, okay, yeah, I'm going to go in for this type of person, and I'm going to be the best that I can in that. And then that work will hopefully get you more work that maybe will be more what you want to do, or stretch you in a way. You know what I mean? No one wants to be typecast, I know. But if it gets you work, let it get you work, and then from that, have the leverage to be able to get other stuff.
Thank you so much.
Great
Yeah.
advice.
I know you.
This is Adam Hohenberg, one of the sponsors of the Indie Memphis.
Hey, okay, I'm going to ask Kentucker's question. So those of you that don't know, Kentucker Audley is from Memphis and has been living in New York for about the last 5 or 6 years, and he directed and acted in Silvio, which I recommend you go see if you didn't see it. And afterwards, I noticed he took advantage of being at the festival and went up to Gayle and asked you a question. Do you remember what he asked you? Did you know that was him? He asked you something about format in terms of, was asking you a question about something about presenting to casting agents or something?
I forgot.
Okay. Well, he got his answer.
All right,
Okay,
wait. So you're going to ask me that question again?
No, because I don't know the question. I just heard him asking you a question.
don't
And
remember.
I think you said it's okay this way. I think he probably asked you an either or.
I can't remember now
Well,
what he asked me.
we'll just splice it. I'll get an actor to splice the question.
okay.
So my question is, it's a pretty long one. So it's a question about for the emerging or first-time filmmaker and how they get in your door and how they get you to read their script. So, how can they get a script in you, and can you get them a star? And what is needed for you to read a script? In what form do you want it? Do you want like a 3-sentence log line? Do you want a 1-page? I'm assuming you don't want to be overwhelmed with a 100-page script. What do you recommend as to that, and what criteria are you looking for, and what basis are you looking at for your agreeing to go, look, this person may have not directed anything, or they made a film at South by 8 years ago, but this is a really great idea, and I'm gonna agree to read it.
Right. No, that's a great question. I do get a lot of scripts, and I decide to take something on based on a couple of different things, and the most important thing to me is the script. So I don't want to read a log line. I don't want to read 2 or 3 pages. I want to read the script. I want to know what I'm committing to.
Right.
I want to know the entirety of what the script is, so I definitely want the whole script. And if I like the script, if I'm moved by the story, if I think the story is relevant, I don't care if your budget is $1,000 or $10 million, I will try and help you with the film.
They need an in with you, right? They need to somehow.
Yeah,
you sort of need to know who they are, where they're coming from.
Right, yeah. I don't really get just blind people sending me scripts. That doesn't happen.
Right.
It is always an introduction by someone that I know. So I don't think maybe once I've gotten I don't know how someone got my email or whatever, and I got this script, I didn't know who they were, but usually, 99% of the time, someone recommends someone to me and says, I have a friend, he's a really great filmmaker, he's a really great director, he's a really great person.
Right.
And, he has a script, and would you read it? Or they'll put us together, here's his email, and you guys take it from here. So the script is the most important thing. I don't want to work on something that I don't believe in, that I don't understand, that I don't think is relevant. Someone sent me a slasher film. I'm not interested in guts and death and people being torn apart. And that's not me. I'm not going to work on it. I don't care,
So what I hear you saying is that they sort of need to know something about you and what it is you do and what your sensibility is.
Yeah.
And then second, they need to have an in with you somehow that's an introduction or something that is you're going to recognize and maybe.
Yeah, I want to know the person's not crazy or, a serial killer or something, it certainly helps.
Right. That's the second time, if you had that second time you brought that up.
I have a fear of serial killers. I don't think I'm alone.
And I think, too, in the entertainment industry, it does sometimes attract unstable individuals.
Yeah, it can be.
You have to protect yourself.
You can be vulnerable to it. Yeah, I know this is a really disgusting story, but one of the first casting directors I worked for, he got a package in the mail once from an actor that was upset with him for whatever reason, and it was a box of doo-doo.
Oh, nice.
It was a box of fecal matter.
Lovely.
If that happens to you, wouldn't you be they know where your office is?
Yeah, and these days, you have to be careful.
No, so the second part of that is the script, and the second part is, the person who is directing it or producing it, because, we're going to have to work together. it would be helpful if we kind of have some sort of knowledge of each other, have a conversation, if we're in the same city, meet each other. I mean, and independent film is the hardest medium to get made. I mean, it just is. And it's so worth it when you get a great script made and you feel like you've done that work, and then you get it presented at a festival. It's like there's no other feeling like it, It's like, because everyone works so hard on it. When you don't have the money, it's just that the work is so much harder, so that the payoff is so much greater. I work on some big budget movies, and you get excited because the film gets seen, but it doesn't feel the same. It doesn't have that feeling of like I helped create something necessarily.
Yeah, like you're in the trenches and you're
and you're helping someone
realize
their vision. I mean, I'm just part of a team. You know what I mean? You all will have to do it together. A film never gets made by just one person. And that's what I like about being in a union. That's what I like about being in this business. I feel like it's a team effort. It's always a team effort. Like, I can't do the job I do without my associate. I would be lost without her helping me in this and doing my job. I don't do it by myself. Yeah.
Any other questions? Oh, yeah.
So real quickly, we talked about this yesterday, Gayle. So independent filmmakers, there's a lot of them that are here. At what point should they hire a casting director? Are some films too small to do that? Should they do it on their own? What are the benefits and advantages of hiring a casting director?
Well, if a director, a producer feels like they know enough actors that they could cast the film without a casting director, then they should do it. I don't think you have to have a casting director. If you feel like you need like a name of some sort and you don't have access to that name, a casting director will help you be able to facilitate that. My relationships in the industry are all with agents and managers, so I know the people that represent the actors. That's not a guarantee that the actor will do the film, but it is an end to getting people to at least read the script or, present some of their clients that might do the film. So a casting director can help you in that area. And then if you have a film and you're like, I don't really care if it's a named person, I don't care if it's a famous person in my film, I just want to get the best actor for the film, a casting director also will, I know I have a database of over 10,000 actors. I know a lot of actors. I've seen a lot of actors work, so my knowledge will hopefully be a benefit to a young director to present them with ideas of actors or actors that they might not have thought of that would just possibly be perfect for the role. So it could be on a lot of different levels. Yeah. Did that answer your question? Okay.
Somebody else? Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
This question over here too.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see. Oh, you want to be after this lady? Yeah, okay, so you go ahead and then you come. Yeah. go
Okay,
ahead.
sorry. Cheryl Walder again. It's kind of a two-part question, and one is a lot of casting directors want you to dress the part and talk the part and walk the part when you come in, and others don't. And the other part is how do you prefer resumes and pictures be submitted to you? Do you want paper ones or do you want things on internet?
Right. So as far as dressing the part or whatever, I always tell actors they should do what is most comfortable for them. If you don't feel comfortable coming in for a doctor role with a doctor lab coat, you don't have to do that. If a woman is coming in for the role of a streetwalker, I mean, I don't expect her to walk around the streets of New York City, with a really short dress and high heels. But it's totally up to you. I'm not going to tell an actor what I think they should or shouldn't do, because I try and make an actor feel as comfortable as they possibly can in the room so that they can do the best work that they possibly can. I'm there for you. I'm there for you to do a good job. I'm there for you to do a great job. Because if you do a good job, I look amazing. So it's whatever you're most comfortable doing. If you're not comfortable doing that, don't do it. And if you are comfortable, if that helps you get into character, and it's going to help your audition, then then you should do it. Now, you may come across a casting director that'll tell you not to do it. That's why it's individual. And if you're not sure what to do, and you have an agent, you can have the agent ask. Or if you don't have an agent and you have like my assistant's or my associate's number, or my office number, whatever, you could just call and ask that question. There are no bad questions, okay? Actors are so afraid to ask questions. You should not be afraid to ask a question. What is the worst thing that's going to happen? I mean, really, what is the worst thing that's going to happen? They'll yell at you. Get over it, right? People yell at me every day. You just have to get over it. I mean, actors have to have thick skins anyway.
Yeah, I've never been yelled at for asking a question.
Yeah. And if someone yells at you, that's their problem.
That's their problem.
Yeah,
for sure.
But you'll never know unless you ask. And information is power. Actors have no power. They really don't. They're at the mercy of so many different people. You should try and get as much power as you possibly can, because it's only going to benefit you. And information is power. So ask that question.
And then what about her other part about
what
the
was the second part?
resume? Do you want it electronically?
Well, now that we have the internet,
Yeah.
you should just send, don't waste paper. Save a tree.
Do you want to come, sir, and ask your question?
I guess my question is, it's been partially answered through different people, and you had mentioned it earlier, the human element of networking, and I guess the luck of the draw of the universe's will bringing things together. How effective do you actually think that can be? Since nowadays you can't walk into a soda fountain and have a director discover Betty Grable.
Right. But what's the question? I'm not following the question.
How effective? You mentioned statistics earlier, 75%, blah, blah, blah. I'm not asking a precise scientific analysis, just, is it worth a shot?
If you're not physically, if you're not physically in the room?
If person A knows a director and knows a person that director should possibly meet, how effective do you think that could have?
To use your
chance?
personal connections,
Yes.
you mean? How effective is it to use personal connections to get in to see a director for a part?
Yes.
Oh, well, I mean, yeah, you got to use them. I mean,
Explore all your options.
Yeah, explore all. I mean, look, the competition is stiff.
Sure.
Competition is stiff. I work on, just to give you an idea, if I work on a TV series, it's like a cable TV series, I can get like 700 submissions for one role.
Wow.
I mean, it's insane. Yeah, it's so crazy. And
Sounds like a part-time job at Aldi's.
no, it is. I mean, there's so many actors, and so you got to use whatever you can.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? Like if you have an advantage, if you know the director or you know the casting director, why not? Sending someone an email is not a big deal.
That's pretty sterile.
It's pretty easy. I mean, and that's the advantage, as opposed to having to go to someone's office, knock on the door, hand a picture and a resume.
Sure.
A lot of times on the door it says no,
No
don't knock.
canvassing,
Yeah, stay away or whatever. So that you should definitely take advantage of whatever you can.
Right.
And the other thing that actors still do, and I think it's helpful, and I think it helps actors, is that like if you're in something, like let's say you've done something locally in Memphis, a film or a commercial or anything,
Okay.
get yourself a reel, put together some sort of
Gotcha.
reel, have that as a link, and let's say you're going to New York for a month. You're like, I'm just going to go and pound the pavement, or I'm going to meet this manager that saw me at the Memphis festival. Take advantage of those things that you've done. Put them on a reel, have it ready to send to someone. If someone sees you this is what happens, like if I see someone in a play, they don't have representation, I'm like, do you have a reel that you can send me? Do you have something you can email me? Do you have your resume that you could email me? And then boom, I get, they email it to me or whatever, So you do need to have something at the ready, because you never know.
The professional standard, right?
From the professional standards, like all of these films that I've seen at this festival, there's a lot of people I don't know. But because I've seen the film, now I do.
Gotcha.
And then let's say I want to go and find this person, like I saw you in something and I want to find you, how do I find you?
Right.
Go into IMDb. That's a good start. If you have a link on IMDb, if you have a contact number on IMDb, if you have an email address. You'd be surprised at actors that I try and find and I can't frickin' find.
Wow.
Well, that makes sense.
So, that's another thing. You got to know that you got to put yourself out there so you can be found.
Right.
And whatever that way is, whatever way you feel comfortable, because once you put yourself on the internet, then a lot of people can find you.
Sure.
But, you find a way that makes it that you're comfortable with it. Like I wouldn't advise women maybe to put their phone numbers.
Right.
Put an email address, or put the phone number of your manager, or put a website that has a contact that, what I mean? Find a way that you're comfortable with. Because if someone's going to try and find you on the internet, they probably can.
All right.
Right?
Well, thank you for your time.
Thank
Good.
you.
All right. Thank you guys so much
Pleasure.
for coming and talking to us
Thank you
today.
for coming, everyone. Thank you, Gayle.
You're welcome.
This is a really great panel. You guys agree?